Have you noticed that something inside you no longer tolerates what once felt acceptable? That certain conversations feel empty, certain structures feel artificial, and certain rhythms feel exhausting in a way that cannot be explained logically? This is not confusion. This is not instability. This is recognition. What is happening on your planet right now is not chaos. It is reorganization. And this reorganization does not begin in governments, economies, or systems. It begins inside the human field. We speak to you now because the pressure you are sensing is not random. It is the result of massive energies from the central sun intensifying coherence across all levels of existence. The central sun is not a star and not an event. It is the organizing intelligence of creation itself. It does not act. It does not intervene. It reveals. As its influence becomes stronger, everything that is internally coherent gains stability, and everything that is incoherent begins to lose support. This applies to civilizations, systems, identities, and to the inner world of each human being. Many attempt to understand this moment mentally. They search for explanations, timelines, and external confirmations. But what is truly occurring cannot be understood first by the mind. It is felt first by the heart. You may notice this as a deep fatigue with the false, as an inability to continue roles that require self-betrayal, as a quiet withdrawal of energy from structures that no longer feel real. This is not rebellion. This is maturation. At the core of this process lies something most humans were never taught about: the atom seed. Within you exists a permanent nucleus of memory and coherence that carries everything you have ever integrated across lifetimes. Nothing you have lived, learned, or embodied has been lost. It has been recorded as vibration, not as story. This atom seed does not think. It does not judge. It responds to coherence. As the energies of the central sun intensify, this atom seed begins to react, not by creating something new, but by calling forward what is already stored. Wisdom that was dormant, maturity that was waiting, truth that no longer tolerates distortion. But for this activation to stabilize rather than overwhelm, one center must take its rightful place: the heart. The heart is not merely emotional. It is the primary organizing axis of the human field. When the heart is coherent, the physical, emotional, and mental layers of the atom seed align naturally. When it is not, fragmentation dominates, and life feels heavy, confusing, and reactive. This is why this moment is so significant. The central sun increases coherence. The atom seed responds, and the heart is asked to become the axis. We are the Pleiadians. Our role is not to activate, command, or accelerate this process. Our role is to guard the emotional field while this reorganization unfolds. We stabilize the heart so that what emerges does not become collapse, panic, or disorientation. We help translate pressure into clarity. When the heart becomes the axis, the human being no longer reacts to the world. The world begins to reorganize around the human being. This is not mystical language. It is structural reality. A coherent heart emits a stable field. A stable field dissolves control based on fear, and fear-based systems cannot survive without emotional feeding. This is why so many external structures are weakening at the same time that individuals feel a growing inner firmness. The axis is shifting, not outward, inward. You did not arrive at this message by accident. You recognized the frequency before you understood the words. That recognition indicates that your atom seed is already responding. Something ancient within you remembers how to stand without external permission. Nothing is required from you now except presence. Not effort, not belief, presence. Allow the heart to take its place as the organizing center. The rest will follow naturally. This is the beginning, not of something new, but of something remembered. and we are here to walk with you as the axis stabilizes. To understand what is unfolding, it is essential to clarify the nature of the central sun. Many interpret it as a distant object or a future event. This misunderstanding creates expectation, fear, or anticipation. None of these are required. The central sun is not something that arrives. It is something that intensifies. It is the originating axis of coherence from which order emerges. It does not interfere with free will, and it does not impose outcomes. It simply increases the demand for internal alignment across all fields of existence. Where coherence exists, stability increases. Where incoherence remains, support withdraws. This is why the effects you observe are simultaneous and widespread. Structures that relied on emotional distortion begin to weaken. Systems that depended on fear, urgency, and fragmentation lose momentum. Identities built on performance rather than truth feel heavy. None of this is punishment. It is exposure through clarity. Within the human being, this pressure is felt first as a subtle insistence, a refusal to continue living in contradiction, a growing sensitivity to what is false, exaggerated, or misaligned. This sensitivity is not fragility. It is precision returning. The central sun does not create crisis. It reveals where crisis already existed. As coherence increases, the atom seed within each human responds. This response is not dramatic. It is selective. Only what has been truly integrated across experience remains accessible. What was imitated, borrowed, or performed loses energy. This is why some feel their interests changing without explanation. Why old ambitions no longer motivate. Why certain relationships feel incompatible with who they are becoming. These shifts are not random losses. They are refinements. The atom seed recognizes coherence faster than the mind does. Many attempt to resist this refinement by holding on to certainty. They seek to preserve familiar structures, beliefs, or roles. But coherence cannot be negotiated. It does not argue. It simply continues to intensify. The pressure you feel is not meant to push you forward. It is meant to bring you inward. When attention returns to the heart, coherence stabilizes. The heart does not analyze coherence, it embodies it. This is why the heart becomes the axis during periods of intensified central sun influence. It is the only center capable of integrating pressure without fragmentation. From our perspective, this is a natural evolutionary phase. Civilizations reach a point where expansion through fragmentation is no longer sustainable. Integration becomes the next step. The central sun facilitates this transition by amplifying what is already true. This is also why external authority weakens during such phases. Authority based on fear cannot function in a coherent field. Control requires distortion. Coherence dissolves distortion without confrontation. You may notice that attempts to create urgency feel hollow. Narratives that once demanded reaction now feel distant. This does not mean disengagement. It means discernment. We observe this process closely. Our role is to support emotional stabilization while coherence increases. When pressure rises without support, it can feel overwhelming. With support, it becomes clarifying. This is the difference between collapse and maturation. The central sun does not ask humanity to become something new. It asks humanity to stop sustaining what is false. As this happens, the heart naturally moves into its rightful position as axis. Decisions simplify. Energy conserves itself. Life reorganizes without force. Nothing is required from you in this phase except honesty with what no longer aligns. Coherence does the rest. This pressure will continue not as threat, but as invitation. And as the heart accepts its role as axis, the path forward becomes quieter, clearer, and unmistakably real. As coherence continues to intensify, one effect becomes unavoidable. What is false can no longer sustain itself. This does not happen through confrontation. It happens through withdrawal. Structures, habits, and identities that depended on emotional distortion begin to feel heavy, unconvincing, and strangely empty. They still exist, but they no longer hold authority. This is why many feel a quiet separation taking place inside. You are not rejecting life. You are withdrawing energy from what no longer reflects your inner truth. What once demanded effort now feels unnecessary. What once felt important now feels performative. This is the atom seed responding. When coherence rises, only what has real substance remains accessible. Everything else fades naturally. This can feel like loss, but it is actually simplification. Less fragmentation means less internal conflict. The mind may try to label this as confusion. It is not. It is discernment activating. You are not becoming indifferent. You are becoming precise. And precision changes how power functions in your life. Fear-based influence weakens when emotional feeding stops. Control dissolves when reaction is no longer automatic. Before we move forward, it is important to anchor this withdrawal consciously, so it does not turn into tension or resistance. Take a brief pause. Notice what you no longer need to carry. Now, stabilize that recognition. Write in the comments, "I allow what is no longer true for me to lose its hold, as I remain aligned with clarity and coherence." Writing this sentence supports the emotional field in completing a cycle of release. It allows the nervous system to disengage from outdated patterns without struggle, making space for the atom seed to reorganize your inner world calmly and naturally. From this grounded place, the next phase of integration unfolds with far less friction. To move forward with clarity, it is essential to understand what truly carries continuity within the human being. Not the personality, not the roles lived in a single lifetime. What persists beyond form is something far more subtle and far more precise. Within each human exists what we refer to as the atom seed. The atom seed is not symbolic. It is a permanent vibrational nucleus that records everything that has been genuinely integrated across experience. Not events as memories, but states as coherence. Every lesson embodied, every truth lived, every maturity reached is condensed and preserved within this nucleus. Nothing of value is ever lost. When a lifetime ends, the physical body dissolves. The emotional patterns release. The mental narratives fade. But the atom seed remains intact, carrying the vibrational summary of who you have become. This is why evolution does not restart. Continues. When a new life begins, the atom seed functions as a mold. It attracts the conditions, sensitivities, and capacities necessary for further integration. This is not reward or punishment. It is resonance. Life organizes itself around what the atom seed can sustain. This is why some humans arrive with natural clarity, while others arrive with unresolved intensity. It is why certain truths feel familiar before they are learned. It is why growth sometimes feels like remembering rather than discovering. The atom seed does not rush development. It responds only to coherence. As the pressure of the central sun increases, this nucleus becomes more active, not by adding information, but by filtering access. Only what aligns with inner coherence remains available. What was imitated, performed, or maintained through effort begins to lose energy. This can feel unsettling at first. Interests change. Identities soften. Long-held motivations dissolve without explanation. But this is not collapse. It is refinement. The atom seed does not support fragmentation. It supports integration. This is why attempts to build identity purely through effort eventually exhaust themselves. What is not aligned with the atom seed cannot be sustained indefinitely. Coherence always prevails over performance. Understanding this brings relief. You are not failing when certain paths close. You are responding accurately to your own inner structure. The atom seed recognizes when something no longer contributes to evolution. As this recognition stabilizes, life begins to simplify. Not because options disappear, but because unnecessary complexity dissolves. Energy returns to what is real. This is the foundation upon which the heart will soon assume its role as axis. The atom seed carries memory. The heart organizes expression. Together, they allow evolution to continue without force. Nothing essential has been lost. Nothing true has been wasted. Everything integrated remains available. This is not philosophy. It is the mechanics of continuity. And as coherence continues to intensify, this inner structure prepares to align more fully, not through effort, but through recognition. To understand why the heart becomes the axis, it is necessary to see how the atom seed expresses itself through different layers of the human experience. What you carry is not a single record, but a triune structure that allows consciousness to move through form. These are the three atom seeds. Each serves a distinct function, and each responds differently to the pressure of coherence now intensifying through the central sun. The first is the physical atom seed. This atom seed anchors the human experience into form. It carries the vibrational blueprint that organizes the body itself, its sensitivity, resilience, rhythm, and limits. This is why the physical body is not random. It reflects what the soul can sustain and what it is ready to refine. This atom seed anchors through the heart, not as an emotional center, but as a structural point of coherence. The heart generates the strongest organizing field in the human body. When the physical atom seed is aligned, the body moves with less resistance. When it is not, tension accumulates without obvious cause. The second is the emotional atom seed. This atom seed carries the memory of how experience has been felt across lifetimes. It stores tendencies of desire, fear, attachment, and sensitivity. It does not remember stories. It remembers states. This is why certain emotional reactions feel ancient. They are not created in the present moment. They are patterns awaiting integration. As coherence increases, these patterns surface not to punish, but to be resolved. When the emotional atom seed is misaligned, life feels reactive and repetitive. When it is integrated, emotional energy becomes intuitive rather than overwhelming. The third is the mental atom seed. This atom seed carries the capacity for understanding. It governs synthesis, discernment, and depth of perception. It is responsible for the feeling of already knowing without needing proof. It does not seek complexity. It seeks clarity. When the mental atom seed is disconnected from the heart, the mind becomes restless, analytical, and defensive. When aligned, thought slows naturally, and understanding becomes immediate rather than constructed. These three atom seeds are not meant to function independently. Fragmentation occurs when one dominates the others. Evolution occurs when they align around a single axis. That axis is the heart. The heart does not override the mind or suppress emotion. It synchronizes them. When coherence is present, the physical body stabilizes, emotional patterns soften, and the mind stops arguing with reality. This alignment is not achieved through discipline or effort. It occurs when the human stops resisting what the atom seed is already signaling. Resistance creates noise. Acceptance creates coherence. As the central sun continues to intensify coherence, These three atom seeds are being gently but firmly brought into alignment. This is why life may feel simpler but also more demanding. Simpler in structure, more demanding in honesty. You are not being asked to become someone else. You are being asked to function as one. When the three atom seeds align, the heart naturally assumes its role as axis. From this point, the human field becomes stable enough to support what comes next without collapse. This is not an awakening that happens all at once. It is a reorganization that becomes irreversible. And from this alignment, the next phase emerges, not as effort but as stability. As the three atom seeds move toward alignment, a natural question arises. What holds them together without force? The answer is not discipline, belief, or control. It is coherence. And coherence is generated and sustained by the heart. The heart is not a metaphorical center. It is the primary organizer of the human field. When the heart is coherent, it synchronizes body, emotion, and mind into a single operating rhythm. When it is not, fragmentation becomes the default state. This is why so much effort was required in the old paradigm. Fragmentation demands management. It demands constant correction, justification, and suppression. Coherence does not. It stabilizes itself. As the influence of the central sun increases, the heart is asked to take its rightful place as axis. This does not happen through emotional intensity. It happens through presence. Presence allows the heart to regulate rather than react. You may notice this shift as a subtle change in how decisions form. Less debate, less urgency, a clearer sense of what is necessary and what is not. This clarity is not intellectual. It is embodied. When the heart becomes the axis, the physical atom seed settles. The body no longer prepares for constant threat. Tension releases without explanation. Energy becomes available for movement rather than defense. At the same time, the emotional atom seed softens. Old reactions lose momentum. Feelings still arise, but they no longer dominate behavior. Emotion becomes information rather than command. The mental atom seed follows. Thought slows. Understanding simplifies. The need to convince dissolves. Insight replaces argument. This is not passivity. It is authority returning to the correct center. A coherent heart emits a stable field. That field reorganizes experience around it. Life begins to respond differently, not because circumstances change immediately, but because perception and response do. This is why fear-based influence weakens when the heart stabilizes. Fear requires fragmentation to function. Coherence leaves nothing for it to attach to. From our perspective, this is the most important transition occurring now. Not the collapse of systems, but the end of inner fragmentation. External change follows inner stabilization, never the reverse. We emphasize this because many still attempt to stabilize through the mind alone. This creates exhaustion. The heart does not need to be convinced. It needs to be allowed. Before we continue, it is important to anchor this shift consciously, not as an idea, but as a lived orientation. Take a moment. Feel the center of your chest. Notice the steadiness available when nothing is being forced. Now seal the state. Write in the comments, I allow my heart to become the axis that organizes my body, emotions, and mind. Writing this sentence reinforces coherence at the level of the nervous system. It signals permission for integration, reducing internal resistance and allowing the atom seeds to align without pressure. This supports stability during transition and prevents fragmentation as clarity increases. From this point, integration becomes less effortful. The heart holds the axis. The rest follows naturally. When the heart becomes the axis within the individual, Its influence does not remain confined to personal experience. Coherence is not static. It radiates, and what radiates inevitably interacts with the collective field. This is how collective change truly occurs. For a long time, humanity believed that transformation required force, confrontation, or mass agreement. This belief itself was a product of fragmentation. In reality, systems change when the frequency that sustains them changes. And frequency is shaped by coherence, not by numbers. A single coherent field does not overpower others. It stabilizes them. As more hearts assume their role as axis, the collective field begins to reorganize quietly. Emotional volatility loses momentum. Extremes lose attraction. Narratives that rely on urgency struggle to hold attention. This does not happen because people fight them, but because they no longer resonate. You may notice this in subtle ways. Conversations feel different. Silence becomes more acceptable. There is less impulse to persuade or defend. Presence replaces reaction. These are not social trends. They are field responses. The old world functioned through amplification of fear. Fear required constant stimulation to remain effective. As coherence increases, stimulation loses its grip. The nervous system no longer responds automatically. This is why control mechanisms weaken without resistance. From our perspective, this shift marks a turning point. When coherence reaches a certain threshold, collective patterns begin to dissolve even if institutions remain unchanged. Structures may still exist, but they no longer define reality. They operate on momentum rather than authority. This is why many feel a strange contrast right now. Externally, systems appear intact. Internally, they already feel outdated. This gap is not confusion. It is transition. The heart-centered human does not withdraw from the world. They engage differently. They do not amplify chaos. They do not feed distortion. They become a stabilizing presence within unstable environments. This presence is not passive. It is selective. Selective attention, selective action, selective participation. Energy is no longer wasted on what cannot be integrated. This creates a natural filtering effect within the collective. We observe that when coherence stabilizes within a group, leadership changes organically. Authority shifts from those who dominate to those who regulate. Influence flows toward clarity rather than volume. This is not ideology. It is resonance. The central sun intensifies coherence universally, but its effects manifest locally. Each coherent heart becomes a node of stabilization. These nodes do not need to connect consciously. The field responds automatically. This is why the future does not need to be forced into existence. It is already forming wherever coherence is sustained. The collective reorganizes itself around what is stable. You are not required to carry the weight of the world. You are required only to not add instability to it. By remaining coherent, you participate fully without exhaustion. By allowing the heart to remain the axis, you contribute without effort. This is how civilizations mature, not through collapse alone, but through stabilization becoming widespread. And as this stabilization continues, the next phase emerges, the challenge of integration without resistance. As coherence spreads within individuals and across the collective, a new kind of challenge emerges. This challenge is not external opposition, nor is it dramatic collapse. It is integration without resistance. Many assume that once clarity appears, the path becomes effortless. In reality, clarity changes the nature of difficulty, not its existence. The difficulty no longer comes from confusion, but from letting go of what no longer aligns. Resistance does not always appear as refusal. Often it appears as attachment. attachment to identities that once provided structure, attachment to roles that once felt necessary, attachment to explanations that once made life predictable. As the heart remains the axis, these attachments surface naturally. They do so not to punish, but to be released. This phase can feel unsettling. The mind may interpret it as loss. The emotional field may interpret it as vulnerability. But what is actually occurring is recalibration. Energy is withdrawing from what cannot be sustained in a coherent field. The atom seed does not negotiate this process. It does not rush it either. It simply continues to organize experience toward alignment. When resistance appears, it is not an enemy. It is information indicating where integration has not yet completed. We observe that many attempt to resolve this tension by forcing change. They try to accelerate decisions, sever connections abruptly, or impose new structures prematurely. This creates friction. Integration cannot be forced. It must be allowed. Allowing does not mean passivity. It means remaining present while clarity completes its movement through the system. When presence is sustained, resistance softens on its own. You may notice waves during this phase. Periods of calm followed by moments of uncertainty. These are not setbacks. They are adjustments as different layers align with the heart. The physical body participates in this integration. Sensations shift. Energy fluctuates. Rest becomes essential. These signals are not obstacles. They are part of stabilization. Emotionally, sensitivity may increase temporarily. This does not indicate weakness. It indicates that the emotional atom seed is reorganizing its patterns. What was once suppressed seeks resolution. When met with presence, it integrates without overwhelming. Mentally, certainty loosens. Old frameworks no longer satisfy. This can feel disorienting, but it creates space for direct knowing. Understanding becomes experiential rather than conceptual. This is why patience is critical during integration. Not patience as endurance, but patience as trust in process. Trust that coherence knows how to stabilize itself when not obstructed. From our perspective, this phase determines whether clarity becomes embodied or remains theoretical. Those who resist tend to cycle back into fragmentation. Those who allow move forward quietly but decisively. The central sun does not intensify to overwhelm. It intensifies to complete what is already in motion. Resistance delays completion. Presence facilitates it. You are not required to resolve everything at once. Integration unfolds layer by layer. Each layer that aligns reduces the need for effort. As the heart remains the axis, resistance gradually loses relevance. What once felt difficult simply no longer asks for attention. Energy returns to what is essential. This is how integration becomes sustainable, not by force, not by avoidance, but by allowing coherence to finish its work. And from this steadiness, the next phase becomes accessible stabilization that no longer depends on circumstance. At this stage of the transition, stabilization becomes more important than understanding. What carries you forward now is not information, but state. A regulated inner field allows coherence to remain active without effort. Stability does not mean certainty. It means self-trust without urgency. As the heart remains the axis, you may notice that life no longer asks for constant reaction. Situations still arise, but they do not demand immediate emotional investment. This is not detachment. It is grounding. The atom seed stabilizes when the nervous system no longer oscillates between control and collapse. This happens naturally when presence replaces anticipation. The body recognizes safety in the present moment, and from that recognition, clarity emerges. Many still attempt to stabilize by predicting outcomes or managing possibilities. This creates tension. The field you are entering does not respond to control. It responds to coherence held consistently. When coherence is sustained, perception changes. You see more with less effort. You sense alignment before you analyze it. Decisions simplify. Energy conserves itself. This is why stabilization feels quieter than awakening narratives often suggest. There is less intensity, not more. Less need to prove. Less need to explain. The heart does not require validation to function as axis. From our perspective, this phase is essential. Without stabilization, clarity becomes overwhelming. With stabilization, clarity becomes navigational. Before continuing, it is important to anchor this state consciously so it does not fade back into reactivity. Take a moment. Feel the steadiness in your chest. Notice that nothing is being demanded from you right now. Now anchor this orientation. Write in the comments, "I remain grounded and steady, allowing coherence to guide my choices without urgency." Writing this sentence reinforces emotional regulation. It signals safety to the nervous system and reduces internal pressure to control outcomes. As this state integrates, the atom seed continues organizing your life from stability rather than reaction. From this grounded position, the transition no longer feels like something you must manage. It becomes something you can move through with clarity and calm. This is stabilization not as an endpoint but as a foundation. And from this foundation, the final phases unfold naturally. At this stage, it is important to clarify our role with precision. We do not arrive to initiate change, and we do not interfere with human choice. What is unfolding now is not caused by us. It is caused by coherence returning to its rightful place. We are present to stabilize the emotional field while this transition occurs. As the influence of the central sun intensifies, pressure increases across all levels of experience. Without stabilization, this pressure can manifest as anxiety, disorientation, or emotional overload. Our role is to ensure that pressure translates into clarity rather than collapse. We work primarily with the heart. The heart is the only center capable of integrating high levels of coherence without fragmentation. When the heart is supported, the physical, emotional, and mental atom seeds can align without force. When it is not, even genuine insight can feel overwhelming. We do not activate the atom seed. We protect the conditions in which it can stabilize. This protection does not occur through control or direction. It occurs through field resonance. We maintain a steady frequency that supports regulation, allowing the nervous system to adapt gradually rather than abruptly. Many humans misinterpret this phase as vulnerability. In truth, it is recalibration. Old coping mechanisms dissolve because they are no longer needed. This can feel exposed, but it is also freeing. Our presence helps soften this exposure. We assist in translating coherence into emotional safety. When emotional safety is present, the mind no longer needs to defend itself. Thought becomes clear. Emotion becomes informative. The body releases chronic tension. This is how integration becomes sustainable. We emphasize this because many expect guidance to arrive as instruction. That is not our function. Instruction belongs to the mind. Stabilization belongs to the field. We work at the level where coherence becomes livable. You may experience our presence not as voices or images, but as steadiness, as a sense that something is holding the process even when outcomes are uncertain. This is intentional. Stability does not need to announce itself. As the heart becomes the axis, our role gradually recedes. Not because we leave, but because your own coherence becomes sufficient. Support becomes internalized. This is the goal. A stabilized human does not depend on external authority, visible or invisible. They recognize guidance through resonance rather than instruction. They move through transition without panic. From our perspective, this marks a significant maturation point. Humanity learning to integrate pressure without fragmentation. We remain present during this phase, attentive and protective, ensuring that clarity deepens without harm. But the movement forward belongs to you. As stabilization continues, attention naturally shifts from inner regulation to outward expression. Not expression as performance, but as alignment lived. This prepares the ground for what comes next. Not an event, but a new way of inhabiting reality. As stabilization settles, life begins to reorganize in subtle but unmistakable ways. Not through dramatic change, but through a different quality of presence. When the heart remains the axis, action no longer arises from pressure. It arises from alignment. This is what living from the axis feels like. You may notice that urgency fades. Decisions still matter, but they no longer carry emotional weight. There is less internal debate, less need to justify, less impulse to anticipate outcomes. What needs to be done becomes evident without force. This does not make life smaller. It makes it precise. Living from the axis changes how you relate to time. The future no longer pulls attention away from the present. Planning still occurs, but it does not dominate awareness. Timing becomes intuitive rather than strategic. This is a sign that the atom seed is functioning coherently. Relationships also change, not because people disappear, but because interaction becomes cleaner. You speak less to convince and more to clarify. Boundaries form naturally. Energy is no longer spent managing imbalance. Some connections deepen, others fade without conflict. This is not rejection. It is alignment expressing itself. Work and contribution reorganize as well. Effort decreases where alignment is present. Resistance becomes a signal rather than an obstacle. You stop forcing what cannot stabilize and invest energy where coherence flows naturally. This is not disengagement from the world. It is participation without fragmentation. From our perspective, this is where true transformation becomes visible. Not in beliefs or declarations, but in rhythm, in how life is lived day by day, in how stability is maintained regardless of circumstance. A heart-centered human does not withdraw from responsibility. They redefine it. Responsibility becomes the ability to respond without losing coherence. This is a higher form of engagement. As more individuals live from this axis, systems inevitably respond. Structures adapt not because they are challenged, but because the frequency that sustained them has shifted. Control mechanisms lose relevance. Cooperation becomes functional. This is how the new world forms, quietly, steadily, without announcement. You are not required to carry vision for the collective. You are required only to remain aligned. The central sun continues to intensify coherence. The atom seed continues to organize experience. The heart continues to hold the axis. These processes do not stop. They deepen. What changes is your relationship to them. What once felt like pressure now feels like guidance. What once felt uncertain now feels navigable. This is not the end of a journey. It is the stabilization of a new mode of being. From here, the closing does not require explanation. It requires recognition, and that recognition brings us to the final integration. At this point, nothing needs to be added. What has been shared is already completing its movement within you. Integration does not require accumulation. It requires settling. What you have been experiencing is not a temporary phase. It is a structural shift in how life is organized. The central sun continues to intensify coherence. The atom seed continues to respond, and the heart, now steady, holds the axis without effort. This is the quiet moment where transformation becomes lived. You may notice that the need for explanation has diminished, not because understanding is absent, but because understanding has become embodied. The nervous system no longer searches for certainty. Presence has replaced anticipation. This is maturity. The old world functioned by pulling attention outward. It demanded reaction, justification, and constant adjustment. The new mode of being functions differently. It organizes from within. When the heart remains coherent, the outer world responds without force. Nothing is rushed here. Nothing is delayed. Timing aligns naturally. You are not required to prove coherence to anyone. You are not required to defend clarity. The axis does not argue for its position, simply holds. This is why fear-based structures lose influence at this stage. Fear requires fragmentation. It requires urgency. It requires emotional feeding. When the heart is stable, none of these conditions exist. From our perspective, this is the true completion of the cycle. Not an ending marked by resolution, but a continuity marked by stability. The atom seed is no longer dormant. It is no longer pressured. It is active and organized. You may still encounter uncertainty. This does not disappear. What disappears is the need to resolve uncertainty through control. Uncertainty becomes part of movement rather than a threat to safety. This is how the future integrates into the present. We remain present as guardians of the emotional field, but our role now is quieter. As your own coherence stabilizes, support becomes internalized. Guidance becomes resonance. Direction becomes intuitive. This is exactly as it should be. Before closing, it is important to seal this integration consciously. Not as a promise, not as a declaration to others, but as recognition within yourself that the axis is now held. Take a slow breath. Feel the center of your chest. Notice the steadiness that remains without effort. Now anchor this recognition. Write in the comments, "I move forward with a coherent heart, allowing my life to organize naturally around clarity and stability." Writing this sentence completes the integration loop. It signals safety and continuity to the nervous system, reducing the impulse to revert to old patterns of urgency or control. This allows the atom seed to continue organizing experience smoothly, without resistance. This is how cycles conclude, not with intensity, but with grounded continuity. We do not step ahead of you. We walk with you, and as the heart remains the axis, what comes next will meet you exactly where you stand. This transmission is complete.